back to my channel. For those of you that are new, I will give you a quick brief overlay, but you feel free to watch my previous videos. So my name is Amy, and basically my husband and I have been struggling with infertility for almost 4 years now. And so I have endometriosis, which is kind of the root cause of our infertility. So we have been trying for quite some time. We were able to get pregnant once after I had my laparoscopic surgery for my endometriosis. I did get pregnant with my son Kelvin. Unfortunately, he was stillbirth at 22 weeks, and that was just over a year ago in January. So he was a little miracle. I was not able to get pregnant again since him. And when I did end up meeting with my RE, my fertility specialist, she was actually quite surprised with the extent of my endometriosis that we had even successfully got pregnant that one time. So going forward from there, we were told that IVF would be our pretty much our only option, and that they thought that we would have great success with IVF. So that's what we did. We geared up. We had been saving for a while because we knew ahead of time that I would have fertility issues from my endometriosis. So we were saving up for quite some time, and it finally came the time where we could go ahead and do it. So we did do that in January last month, and unfortunately it was unsuccessful. So we had failed IVF cycle, and basically what had happened was we did our injections and everything for 8 days and got all ready, and they did my retrieval to get my eggs, and I had 6 eggs, and out of those 6 eggs, only 3 of them fertilized, and then out of those 3 that fertilized, only 1 of them made it till day 5. So we did do a fresh transfer, and unfortunately it did not work. I did not get pregnant, and so that was that. So that was fairly surprising. Not that it didn't take, but that we had only had the one to try. And so that is where we're at. So that's just a quick kind of review of what's been going on. And for those of you that have been following, thank you so much for following, and I'm going to do a little update. So we went in and we had our follow-up appointment, and as I suspected, I don't think they really ever know exact reasonings to why IVF cycles fail. She had a little bit of insight, but not a whole lot. So basically, she said she had expected, and I had also expected, my husband and I, that I would have more eggs at my age. I'm 28, and endometriosis doesn't necessarily affect your ability to make eggs. It's more kind of your environment that you have that is tainted, I guess. So anyway, she said she had expected to get more eggs from me, and then she said she also expected a higher percentage of those eggs to fertilize, and then she also expected a higher percentage of the fertilized eggs to make it to the day 5. So basically she said we had kind of bigger losses than she would have expected at each stage. So a loss as far as how many eggs were retrieved, a loss as far as how many were fertilized, and also a loss at how many made it to day 5. So what that means is all she could really give us for insight was that if we were to choose to do a second cycle, she would up my medication, so up my injections, so that hopefully I would make more eggs and then have kind of more to work with as a whole. But as a lot of you know, they can't really guarantee these things. They don't know what's going to happen when you do a cycle. But that was kind of all she had to offer to us. As far as when and time frame, she basically said it was up to us what we did. Our options were to not do another cycle at all and kind of call it. Our second option was to go ahead and do another cycle, but in our own time. So when we were ready, we could wait, a year or however long if we wanted to. And then our third option was to go ahead and jump right in and do another IVF cycle right now, basically, in the next couple months. So that was kind of our options. She said it really, like medically speaking, it didn't matter. One was not better than the other. Like it didn't really I wouldn't have higher success on when I did it. So the only kind of thing she had to say, I guess, was that if we were to wait to do another cycle, I would have to start from scratch. So basically, because of my endometriosis, not everybody that gets IVF goes through this, but because of my situation with my endometriosis, I had to do Lupron injections for, I think it was 4 months prior to actually starting my IVF. And so that is called a long protocol IVF cycle, which basically just means that it takes a longer amount of time to do. So I had to do that injection to suppress my system. They call it down regulating. So some people can just down regulate kind of from cycle day 21 of the previous cycle, but I had to, because of my endometriosis, I had to do this Lupron injection once a month to totally shut down my system for a few months to get my inflammation and my endometriosis kind of calmed down and at bay. So if I was to wait to do it, I would have to start that from start again, which means kind of my whole IVF cycle as a whole would probably take 5 or 6 months, around that, opposed to if we were to jump right in and do it again, my system's already down regulating, so I get to skip that 4 months of that injection. So I basically can just start on my cycle day 21 and go forward and then do my injections and stuff. So that was kind of the only difference. And so with that, me and Corey talked about it at length because it is not a decision we take lightly. We have decided that we will be going forward with another IVF cycle. So what that means is that we are starting from scratch. I'm going to have to do the injections all over again, get another surgery for retrieval, hopefully do another transfer, and hopefully that one works. But if not, the hope with this cycle would be that I have frozen embryos left so that I can do multiple transfers for either if the first one doesn't work or for a second child. So that is what we have decided to do. It was not a decision that we took lightly. We have decided to go ahead and do it in the near future, just because we've been at this for a long time now, since I was 24. I'm 28. I'm going to be 29 in 3 or 4 months. 3 months, I think. So anyways, we're just ready. We're ready to have a kid, and I wish it would have worked the first time, but it didn't. And so what are you gonna do, right? So we have decided that we will be doing another cycle. We have not decided when. So we will either start some medication on the 21st day of this cycle or next cycle. There's kind of a few things that are factoring in to how we decide. One of them being that you do have a slightly higher chance of getting pregnant naturally directly after a failed IVF cycle because your body's down-regulated and kind of set up and ready to be pregnant. That being said, it's not a big percentage higher. She said that we wouldn't have the same likelihood as to people with oat issues would have, but it would be slightly higher than it was before I did the IVF. So part of us kind of just wants to hope and go with that and maybe try for a natural conceiving, even though it is still quite unlikely. But wouldn't that be amazing if we could do that and save the 16 grand of doing another cycle? Because she would up my medication for the next cycle, that means it would cost more, because a lot of the bulk of the cost for IVF is actually the injections. So the injections are hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and you're doing them for anywhere between 8 and 15 days. So that's kind of a lot of the price, and because she would be upping them, it means that our next cycle would probably be more expensive than our first cycle. So that's kind of one of the things. The other thing is that if we do decide to wait a cycle, it does interrupt my husband's fishing season. So my husband is a fisherman. He does fish most of the year round, but the bulk of our salary or whatever, the bulk of our money that we use actually comes in April, at the end of April. So it comes from lobster fishing, which is a 2-month long season here, and that is where we make the meat of what we live off of. And so if we decide to try naturally for a cycle and then do IVF the next cycle, it actually does put my surgery and my retrieval and stuff in the first few days or week or so of his lobster fishery. And the problem with that is because that's when we make the bulk of our money, is literally within that first week of lobster season. For him to miss one day even is quite a financial blow. I don't want to get into too much detail, but it basically it could potentially be at large a big financial blow, like thousands and thousands of dollars. So for him to miss that, obviously when we're having to pay for a second cycle that we had not saved for, it just would be so hard. So that's kind of where we're at. And so we need to decide very soon what we're gonna do. We've been talking about it a lot. We're going back and forth. We haven't made a decision yet on kind of what we want to do. Obviously, I would way rather get pregnant naturally, but the chances are still pretty slim. So part of me is like, let's just do the IVF. That way we don't have to interrupt that lobster season. And again, it's not a huge deal. I don't want to live my life, because of money. But I mean, we have to take that into consideration. We weren't planning on ever having to do 2 cycles, so we only had saved for 1. So it's not that we 100% can't afford it. It's just that we have to be very smart, and we're going to have to, sacrifice some things, other things that we wanted, and, stuff like that to come up with that money. Like we don't just have it. So that's where we're at. I could try naturally and get pregnant and then still kind of start the IVF. The problem with that is the way it works is that you start your medication on the 21st day of your cycle, and that's when you need to start it. So if I try to get pregnant and then I am successful, I would start that medication on the 21st day, and that's too early to pick up if you're pregnant or not, because obviously when you do get pregnant naturally, it happens on the 14th-ish, usually 14th to 20th day of your cycle. So they wouldn't be able to pick up that I was pregnant. And so I could potentially take that medication for the IVF while I was pregnant. And this medication they have not done any studies on how it affects pregnancies. So they obviously cannot recommend that you take that medication when you're pregnant, because they don't know the effects that it could have on a pregnancy, because they haven't done any studies on it. So they don't have any evidence on it. So that being said, she said it has happened before where people have accidentally gotten pregnant while they were gearing up to do their IVF cycle, and they have taken that medication on the 21st day and then found out that they were pregnant after the fact. And she said that on the few people that has happened to that were in her care, and like I said, this is only the few that she has had that this has happened to, she said those people went on and had healthy babies. So she can't say either way. She's not saying that it will affect a pregnancy, but she can't say that it won't affect a pregnancy. They don't know, so they can't obviously do that. So that's kind of where we're at. We have not made a decision yet on when we will do it. We have to make a decision in the next couple days here, because if we are going to do it, I soon will have to get started. I'm on cycle day, I think 11, and I would need to start medication on cycle day 21. So I don't have a whole, and I can't just decide like the day before. I have to call them and let them know. So that's where we're at. So we will either do it starting on this cycle day 21, or we will do it in March after my March period comes on that cycle day 21. I really don't know what we're gonna do. If anybody here has been through anything similar or has any suggestions or any thoughts on what they would do, please comment and share, because I am like dying trying to make this decision, but it needs to be made. So long story short, not really, this is a 15-minute video, but we will be doing a cycle 2, which I wish we didn't have to do, but you know what, you gotta do what you gotta do. Hopefully it will be worth it. Hopefully this cycle will go a lot better. Hopefully we will finally get a healthy baby out of it, but no one knows. So that's where we're at. We will be doing cycle 2 within the next couple of months. I will 100% keep you guys updated, and hopefully you guys continue to give me your support and your comments and sharing your personal stories and everything else. I love that. After we found out that cycle failed, I was obviously upset, and it's just nice to hear other people's stories and people messaging me with kind words and stuff. It's very helpful when someone is, you know, suffering from mental health issues, which I am. So anyways, we have decided to do it, and it will be probably within the next 2 months. I will keep you guys updated. If any of you guys have any thoughts or suggestions, obviously I know it's a personal decision and someone can't make it for me, but I would love to hear your guys' insight and thoughts on this problemo, and hopefully we will be able to make a decision here soon, and then I can let you guys know what is going on. I will definitely keep you guys in the loop. I love all your support. If you have not already, please subscribe below, and if you want to follow along, if you want notifications for when I put new videos up, it usually is on Sunday, but when I get in the thick of things, there's too much going on, so I often do more videos. But if you guys want notifications on when I post new videos, just click, there's a little bell beside the subscription, and your phone will give you a notification when I put something up. Thank you for all your support. I'm moving around a lot, my legs are falling asleep. Thank you for your continued support. If you have any questions or comments or anything, feel free to leave them below. If you want to continue to follow me on my journey, feel free to subscribe below, like this video, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.